People should abide by CDC guidelines, but you are not even asking your supporters to wear masks, though
we pass them out, Jake. I mean,
do you know how many people in Minnesota have gotten the virus because of Trump rallies?
Have you been to a rally? You come on with us to a rally, and we'll show you. We give out masks. We have a number of people
wear them.
Well, it's a free society. You're not wearing one right now, Jake.
There's literally nobody in this room. There is literally not one person in the studio.
So you're saying that you always wear a mask wherever you go. Come on, Jake. The American people know that's not true. I know it's not true.
I wear a mask except when I'm in here, in my office, and home. That is true. 100%. But I wear a mask when I walk in the hallway at CNN. Okay?
But under your article just yesterday, you're suggesting that Thanksgiving is going to be a super spreader event.
I don't even know what article you're talking about.
Yeah, well, it's on the CNN website. They can
let me ask you a question.
That was CNN's Jake Tapper absolutely roasting Donald Trump's White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, over the reality that they do not enforce masking and social distance protocols at any of the Trump events. And that by doing so, they're basically ignoring the laws and the protocols that Americans across the country have been asked to follow for months and months and months now. And then he tries to turn it on Jake Tapper and say, well, you're not wearing a mask right now. And Tapper's like, literally, no one else is in this room. And when I walk into the hallway, I wear a mask. And I think it goes to show that the Trump regime, the Trump administration knows that what it's been doing has been grossly irresponsible. And rather than fess up to that, all they can try to do is blame other people or find little snippets like the Leslie Stahl interview when they found a 5-second clip where she was talking to people without masks on. And then it was like, oh, Leslie Stahl and the media are a bunch of hypocrites. You know, remember all those times we didn't wear masks? Well, forget about that. Because here's one 4 or 5 second clip of one journalist not wearing a mask for one particular moment out of context. And it shows just how childish they are. They know they don't enforce mask wearing because they've built up an anti-mask paranoia among the American right, especially Trump's most loyal base. And now, even if they wanted to, enforce people wearing masks, they wouldn't do it because the mask has been now seen as some kind of symbol that's bad. And, Trump is in too deep with that. So all they can do is hand them out and, maybe ask people to wear them gently. But unlike other rallies and unlike even regular businesses, mom and pop stores, no one's forced to wear a mask when you're at a Trump or a Pence or many Republican rallies right now. But this interview was about more than the personal. I want to play you another clip which shows that Mark Meadows and the administration continue to lie about how America is supposedly, quote unquote, rounding the corner with this illness.
So just yesterday, President Trump said, quote, we're rounding the corner, it's going away. Mark, It's not even going away in the White House. But beyond that, the U.S. reported 83,000 new cases on Friday and Saturday. That's the 2 highest days of the entire pandemic so far for new cases. And it's not just new cases. The positivity rate's going up. Hospitalizations are going up. Deaths are starting to tick up. For any American, let me just ask you the question. I have a question here.
Okay,
for any American at home,
to the question.
For any American at home, under the false impression that the pandemic's almost over, would you agree that this remains very serious, the numbers are going in the wrong direction, and people still need to take precaution?
Well, I agree that it's very serious, but here's the interesting thing is we continue to test more and more than most other countries, so that the cases that we find will go up. If you're not testing, you're not finding it. So a lot of these other countries, they're not testing near at the rate that we're testing at, Jake.
So let me just add some clarity here. Testing is up. I am, but I just want to bring some clarity. It is true that the more you test, the more people you'll see. But testing has gone up 16% in the last month. Coronavirus cases are up 55%. So this is not just about new tests. This is about the positivity rate, and the pandemic is spreading. The virus is spreading as a factual matter.
As a factual matter, if you look at the number of tests versus the number of cases in the last couple of weeks where you're talking about all these upticks, there is a correlation to additional testing. I'll be glad to go over and someday when...
Some of it, sure.
Okay, and so in doing that, I mean, what's the point? What is Joe Biden's plan for the pandemic? How is he going to do it? He's going to wear 2 masks like he does every day and suggest that we skip
He gave a whole
Thanksgiving?
speech about it, and
No,
if
I
you're
know
interested in his plan, you can read his plan.
He doesn't have a plan. He has rhetoric, because you and I both know for 47 years he's talked about things and not done things. You've covered him, I know him, and the American people should know his record.
I'm asking about what's going on right now, not what theoretically Joe Biden would or would not do. He had a whole plan that he outlined on Friday, and I'm sure it's on his website if you want to know.
So what you see there is Jake Tapper give the data hard and clear. Right now, the United States is having its biggest single-day caseloads ever of this crisis, ever, for the coronavirus. Going all the way back to March and February and April, when we were in the midst of the rise of the curve. There are more cases daily now in the U.S. than there have ever been. And Mark Meadows tries to suggest this is testing related. This is quote unquote testing related. We're testing more, so we're finding more. And that's partially true, but as Tapper notes, the testing rate is only up about 15-16%, but cases are up 55%. That means that, yes, testing is finding more, but there are just more cases. And it should also be noted that the percentage of positive tests is rising, and that's not a good thing. Countries that do very well at testing broadly have very low testing rates, because it means you're testing everyone, or a vast majority of people, most of whom won't get it. When you have a very high testing percentage, what that means is you're testing people with verifiable symptoms and you're getting a lot of positives. A high testing rate is bad. The higher the testing rate accuracy, the worse you're doing, because that means you're not testing beyond the people you're very sure actually have COVID. That's what's happening here. And I want to play you one final clip here because it shows that this administration has given up on saving American lives. 100%. They've given up on any modicum of social distancing, masking protocols. They've given up on enforcing anything at a broad national level to save American lives and flatten the curve. And they've basically bought into the idea that this is uncontainable and we just have to let the virus roam free.
So here's what we have to do. We're not going to control the pandemic. We are going to control the fact that we get vaccines, therapeutics, and other mitigation.
Why aren't we going to get control of the pandemic?
Because it is a contagious virus, just like the flu.
Yeah, but why not make efforts to contain it?
Well, we are making efforts to contain it.
By running all over the country, not wearing a mask?
Jake,
that's what the vice president's doing.
We can get into the back and forth. Let me just say this. Is what we need to do is make sure that we have the proper mitigation factors, whether it's therapies or vaccines or treatments, to make sure that people don't die from this. But to suggest that we're going to actually quarantine all of America, lock down our economy.
No one's saying that.
Well, they are. Joe Biden's saying that. He says lock everybody down. We're going to have a dark winter. We're going to have a dark winter.
That's what health officials say. That's what health officials say, that it's going to get worse.
No,
we
that's
have
Joe Biden's
days.
Jake, let's be honest.
Friday and Saturday.
Let's be honest here. The health officials did not say dark winter. Those were Joe Biden's words.
He was quoting a health official. I think he was quoting William Haseltine.
When we look at the number of cases increasing, what we have to do is make sure that we fight it with therapeutics and vaccines, take proper mitigation factors in terms of social distancing and masks when we can. And when we look at this, we're going to defeat it, Jake, because we're Americans. We do that, and this president is leading while Joe Biden is sitting there suggesting that we're going to mandate masks.
And so that's what you hear there. They're basically giving up. And I get partially what they're saying, that you cannot keep a full lockdown indefinitely. Even here in Canada, we've started to gradually open up again, and it has led in some places to more cases. That's part of the balance. But the US never even really did a full, unequivocal national shutdown, in part because national leadership failed to actually do their jobs at crucial intervals, which is why a lot of people have noted that the US death rate could be half of what it is if everyone actually did their jobs back in February and March and April like they did in many developed countries. Like Canada, we have less per capita people that have passed away, in part because we had a stricter lockdown. And as we reopen, cases will rise, but it's gradual. And it was after, a first wave was actually felt. The US first wave never ended. And this is not the only thing in the interview. Mike Pence's, positive case, people around him, story was brought up. His chief of staff has the coronavirus now. And there's also the sense that, other people around him do. And we're asking why Pence isn't quarantining. And Mark Meadows is trying to defend that. But there's no defense to that. There's absolutely none. Mike Pence isn't quarantining because he knows politically it's bad for him to quarantine. It makes Donald Trump look bad because Trump really didn't do a full 14-day quarantine and he had the coronavirus. So whether it's Pence failing to deal with this personally, being irresponsible, whether it's them continuing to spread disinformation, or whether it's the administration basically giving up, Jake Tapper really exposes how they're putting American lives, at the bottom and their re-election chances at the top, when any reasonable government should flip those two things. And let's just be really clear here. Jake Tapper notes this. If the administration can't even get rid of COVID in the White House, what chance do they have beyond it?